Hey everybody. So we are live here, and I am super excited to have with me the Mental Health Television Network. And we're gonna have a panel here hosted by Andrew Mercein, and he has two incredible panelists who are contributors at the Mental Health Television Network. And I am thrilled to have them speak at the US Canada portion of Meant to Be Well. And just briefly about a little bit about Andrew. He is a journalist, a Substack author, and producer for the Mental Health Television Network. His mission is to foster open and honest conversations about mental health, provide valuable resources, build community where no one feels alone. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, Valerie. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Ambreen and Andrea as well. So for those of you who don't know, MHTN is the first 24/7 streaming platform and television platform devoted exclusively to highlighting conversations around mental health. And today we have an amazing panel for you with two of our best contributors, and they're the best. We have Jojo Venant, therapist and owner of the Clarity Hour and editor-in-chief of Chasing Clarity magazine. And we also have Ryan Heapy of Align Therapy. You can find him at www.ryanheapy.com. He's also the co-host of the Hey Man, It's Okay podcast, focusing on men's mental health. So today we're here to talk about mental health in the mental health industry. We always talk about putting our own oxygen masks on first, and we want to know, who's taking care of the people who take care of us. So I'd just like to open it up, and I'll start with Jojo. Can you just tell us some of the mental health challenges that face people in the mental health industry?
I think that what we face really does mirror what our clients face, right? A lot of us feel burnout. We feel physically exhausted, sometimes emotionally drained to give the best of us to our clients and then turn around and give our best to our kids, that it is their responsibility for the world to revolve around them, right? That's their role. So then stepping into that, so a lot of burnout, I would say, it's one of the leading causes of mental health counselors leaving the field and not doing the proactive work of the self-care. So I would say definitely burnout is one of the number one things, along with other things with depression and anxiety as well.
Yeah, I think we were talking earlier about one of the really unique challenges that we have is sort of the inability to share, some of the things that we go through on a day-to-day basis with our friends, family, partners. There's so many like big wins that we might have in the office. Sometimes there's real crises. And it's hard not to let that permeate into the rest of our lives. And the inability, having to hold confidentiality and not share kind of the intricate details which really make up, so much of what we do. We have to keep a lot of that inside.
Yeah, you can't exactly go home. Yeah, no, I was going to say you can't exactly go home and be like, honey, here's what happened at work today, because that's a confidentiality break. So yeah, I mean, how do you deal with that? Like, how do you make sure that you're at your best for the people that you're seeing and 100% when you can't really open up fully yourself?
For me, I know I try my very, very best to practice what I preach. The same thing I tell my clients. It's something that I'm constantly reminding myself, and sometimes to a fault, because at times it's like, wait, you can have that negative self-talk is like, hey, wait, aren't you a therapist? Like, where you're feeling so overwhelmed, or you lose it on your kid, but really practicing what I preach. And that is, for me, I know I need to be able to take off the hat and just be silly JoJo, be myself, go into with my friends socially. That's really where I do get fueled, is being able to be with the people that know me, that love me, that know me outside of that therapist role. And even if there are times where, sometimes I can't help but be a therapist sometimes and help friends, but that's just me. I'm a helper. But understanding that I need that. I need to socially connect, and I need to be able to just fully be my, authentic self.
I totally have to agree with JoJo there that it's really all about practicing what we preach. Andrew, I'm sure you've heard me plenty of times stress the importance of meditation and exercise, good sleep, like Jojo was saying, great support. But really, for me, it's the small acts of mindfulness throughout the day. Often I might have 6, 7, 8 clients in a day, back to back to back, on top of the stress of my own life.
Mm-hmm.
And the having to be present for each client without thinking about all of these other things is really in the skill of mindfulness. It's really like in those transitions between client to client or before I get home, of just taking like 1 minute to just breathe, recognize kind of the worries that I don't have to worry about in this moment, the ones that I can put to the side, and also maybe take care of the quick things that I know I can take care of real fast, but then being able to kind of put those things behind me and then being able to be present for who's in front of me.
Yeah, but how do you actually do that? You know what I mean? Like, surely you fall short at times, right? We all do. So how do you like recenter yourself? And because again, I mean, it's easy for you to be like, hey, it's all right if you don't have your best day to your clients or to anyone in your life, but you have to be there, right? So how do you juggle that?
Juggling the schedule is definitely one of the hardest things to do. But like I was saying, with that little piece of mindfulness, and maybe I can kind of walk you guys through it just real fast.
Please.
I first kind of notice that I'm thinking, I'm up in thoughts. It's almost like we have this spotlight of attention, and we can kind of move that, recognize, okay, what's going through my head right now? Take a quick notice of what's going on, and then move that spotlight back to the breath. I like to kind of pick one spot on my nose and then just breathe directly into that. Try to focus my attention as much as I possibly can. And just for like 10 seconds, just try to hold it there, slowing everything else down. You might recognize that you go right back up to thought, noticing that, and then bringing the attention right back to the breath again. And everything kind of quickly disappears. Maybe one more time, bringing it to the breath. And then hopefully you're able to devote your attention to exactly what's in front of you.
Jojo, any thoughts? I think that sounds great, but you can't do that in the middle of a session, can you? like how do you, you know what I'm saying? Like,
sometimes I do, as a matter of fact. I'll keep my eyes open. If I notice that I'm, tripping about something that's not right in front of me, I probably won't be as exaggerated as that.
Yeah, exactly.
But I definitely try to do a quick little mindfulness breath to bring myself right back there. Yeah.
Jojo, how about you? Any tips, thoughts from practical life or from your life?
Well, first, I felt very relaxed. Thank you, Ryan, for that. It brought me down a little bit, and I thought that was awesome. And really being aware of your own breath, your own tone, the speed at which you're speaking really does affect your level of concentration as well. And even involving, so let's say if you're doing breath work with a client, you're participating with them. You're walking them through those things, those exercises as well. And in between clients, there's times where I just have to take a deep breath and really just recenter myself, because there's some really heavy sessions. There are sessions where that it ends maybe in laughter and, sharing good news, and they updated you on something. And other times the session really ends where you're like, I wish I had another hour with them, or they need another hour. Right. And you really have to be able to get yourself together. And this is things that you do have to practice. 10 years ago, I don't think I had the capability really as to what I have now, because I didn't know as much. And I think with time, giving yourself that grace, that you will learn how to do those things. I remember very early on, I was experiencing, issues with infertility. I'd had a few miscarriages. I had 2 clients that came in that had lost toddlers too. and really not being able to find a balance between what they were sharing, what I was experiencing. I was really new in the game. And I'm so grateful that I knew when to, that I, at least I knew to take a bit of a step back and to have some mentors. I had mentors at the time. I had a supervisor. I was still a registered intern at the time. And being able to rely on that support system to be able to walk me through that. Because if you're not able, or at least you don't have that experience, it really can be very difficult for you.
Wow, yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds incredibly challenging. Please, Ryan.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest skills that I try to practice is just connecting. You know, when we go to grad school and then we're training, we're learning all these different modalities and different interventions and trying to ask the right questions. But really, when I'm at my best, it's when I can just sit there and be totally present with the client. And then everything else just kind of comes from that. It
Yeah,
also helps me from, you know, watching the clock, because I think that's one of the hardest things to do if you're in a session is, you know, hoping that the session will be over if you have something to do after work. And really, you just instead want to be totally present and totally connected. And the clients can notice that.
yeah. I imagine that would feel like kind of a, I don't want to say betrayal, but it might hurt, you know, a client a little bit if they thought that you were looking at the clock, waiting for something else, like not being fully present. I mean, part of your job is that you are fully present, right? So, but you're human too. So it seems very challenging. Yeah. Jojo, did I interrupt you? Were you going to say something there?
No, I was just agreeing with everything that you guys are saying. It really, that whole being present, the clients, I have been the client, you know, and that's part of my, you know, self-care is really knowing that you need to be able to have a professional that you can sit with and, you know, let it all out. But I have been in session with professionals where I can tell, I'm like, I don't think they're fully in it. Is that a long blink? Am I putting them to sleep? You know, we can really tell if someone is engaged. So I'm with you on that one, Ryan. You really have to be so fully present.
Yeah. And back to something that we talked about before that we haven't touched on yet. This isn't the type of job where you can come home, kick off your boots and completely disconnect. Like you are still you are still a therapist, right? Like, and you still have interpersonal relationships and your job is all about interpersonal relationships. So how do you balance that in your life? Last time I started with Jojo, so I'm going to start with Ryan this time. Like, how do you balance Ryan Heapy, the person, the friend, the, you know, the son, and Ryan Heapy, the therapist?
This is one of the most difficult things that I really struggle with. I'm already an overly analytical, curious, unfortunately, sometimes critical person. And so a lot of times that therapist is really just one-on-one with me. And, you know, I can tell when people are being inauthentic, or maybe they're not present. And I'm noticing that they're not listening to me. Unfortunately, a lot of times I'll call that out. And that often doesn't feel good for other people. And so this has been a real practice, a real thing I've had to work on is putting that aside and instead kind of being more the therapist that I am in the room of just trying to connect with people. A while back, I was doing my training in Gottman, which is one of the best kind of couples therapy modalities. And I was dating somebody at the time, and I was constantly being extra critical of a lot of the things she was doing. And it was really this very eye-opening moment. And she kind of looked at me and said, like, Ryan, nobody's taught me how to be in a relationship. I don't study all these things you do. Like, give me a break, you know, kind of let me be a little. And it was quite the check. And yeah, and so I think reminding ourselves and having the awareness that most people don't study psychology, you know, all day, every day, and go into a room thinking about interventions and different concepts. So it is a real practice to kind of leave that part of me, you know, back in the office.
Jojo?
I really appreciate that transparency. And by even sharing that, that has been helpful for me to be that transparent, because JoJo always has it all together. Well, not always. There are days where I'm feeling completely not myself, and I need to be able to share that. So sometimes I lead with a little bit of that, and sometimes I can overshare. But being able to say, if I am with friends, hey, I'm really not feeling like myself. Or if I do start stepping into that therapist role, which I do that often as well, I say, okay, sorry, the therapist hat is coming on, and I think my friends kind of get that, and we can kind of understand each other in that sense. But the same way that Ryan is talking about, those lenses and how he can see these things, sometimes I can do that with myself to such a critical point where I'm now judging myself as a partner, where I'm telling myself, was that toxic? Did I just, did I just communicate in a way where I tell my clients not to do? Am I practicing the communication techniques? Am I leaning in? Am I, being my true authentic self? Am I being who everybody else wants me to be? And I'm having to tell myself, girl, stop. The same way, just, there was a Saturday Night Live skit like 20 years ago, where a therapist said, just stop it. He called it the just stop it therapy. Well, I had to implement just stop it therapy on myself sometimes, because I look at myself and, my neighbors know I'm a therapist, and, I'm acting like a nutcase with my kids. And it's like, girl, literally stop it, and not having those lenses on myself. I think that's something that I've had to truly work on, is to stop being so hard on myself, because I know what I know.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah,
sounds.
I definitely,
Ryan, please.
definitely agree with you there, Jojo. Kind of over therapizing ourselves all the time. I in the same vein of practicing what we preach, we can over practice what we preach.
Yeah.
All the time I'll be like, I think I need radical acceptance right now. I need to challenge these thoughts. Or, okay, I need to do a gentle startup. Okay, so I feel about what, so I need, and sometimes I lose like the humanness of myself, and I just kind of become this robot who's acting in all of these interventions. And it also is extra critical of myself at times. And just like you said, I need to tell myself, just stop it.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough because you are people too, and you have to let yourself be people too. So a question from the comments is, what helps you as a therapist or healthcare professional put on your own oxygen mask? Like, what is it that enables you to say, okay, I'm doing this now. I'm taking care of myself. Whichever. Let's start with Ryan.
It's really those basic fundamentals. For me, the gym is such an integral part. Like if I'm missing a week, I feel it. I don't have the same energy in the room. I'm not taking care of myself. Like I said, the meditation, the mindfulness, but also having like good support, friends, being able to talk to people, getting a break from the office. Also really talking to colleagues helps a lot, because they kind of can just instantly understand some of the struggles and some of the difficulties that we go through.
I'll mirror that again too. The support of having someone again that truly knows you. I need to be able to. So one of the things for me that I feel is really where I just feel the most recharged is when I can laugh and really take things lightly. I'm in such a serious field. I also have a family that does have, their own struggles. And, sometimes you have to step out of that and just laugh. And I used to criticize myself with some of my mindless scrolling, because, I'm not only consuming, all this amazing self-help content. I'm laughing at some of the most immature things that are on the internet and not being mad at myself for it and sending it. I take great pride in knowing who to send what to. I'm like, oh, this one's for that person. This one's for that. And saying, you know what, that's okay. Like the human part of it, and also recognizing just some alone time. Yeah, I love to be with others, but there's nothing like completely unplugging and just shutting off the world. I know those two really important things for me.
When I get off work, one of the first things I do is just play like 30 minutes of a video game, completely lose myself into something else, forget about everything all day. it gives me that little time to just kind of refresh and recharge, and then I'll go do all the things that I'm supposed to do. Yeah. The video games are really huge to get me to detach for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta get away from it. I totally understand that. Do you feel that support network among professionals is there? I mean, that's obviously part of the reason we're having this conversation in the first place. But yeah, what do you think about that? Like, is it easy to talk to other people, to approach other professionals about it? Is it something that people are talking about, or are they not? Because the dialogue is, the first step, as you know. I mean, as we know at Mental Health Television Network, right? That's why we're here. We want to start these dialogues. So, what do you think?
It could
Jojo,
be a lot better.
Or yeah, Jojo.
That's for sure. Being in private practice like I am is very isolating.
Yeah.
Luckily, I have a handful of therapists that are in the same building, that are kind of down the hall, and we all stop by each other's offices and just chat for a little. And that's really important, actually. But I've been in settings before where I was the only therapist around, and it can be very, very lonely. And I think it is difficult to kind of build those support groups if they're not already kind of in place for you.
I agree with Ryan. It can be very isolating. Just recently, within the last year, I connected with other therapists, and we've even gotten together, and we have like a cute little group name on WhatsApp. And, we'll share resources and we'll talk. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is what we've been needing, because you don't really see that. And you would think in a group of helpers, that it's all going to be, we're all holding hands and buddy. There can be some competitiveness, amongst our colleagues. So having that and helping each other out, wonderful friend Sueli Rivera, she's amazing. She kind of started this group and helped us all, get, let's say, on insurance panels to be providers and things like that. A lot of us were private pay, and just helping each other out and seeing each other as equals and getting it is really important, but it's not as common. It's not.
So how do you make that happen then?
Maybe if there's groups online, I know that there are some mental health counselor groups, maybe initiating what you want, so if you're not seeing these groups and it's like, there are no groups, put yourself out there, write it in one of the chats. Who wants to start a little group? Let's get on a WhatsApp. Who wants to get together virtually? If it's in the same town, can we get coffee together, or virtually get coffee together? You have to put yourself out there.
Exactly. All right. First, we got to wrap up. So I'll start with you, Ryan. Both of you. I just want one last. What are you going to take away from? What do you want people to take away from this chat?
I'm always going to push mindfulness. Just be able to breathe, move that attention, get out of the head for a little bit, and put yourself right in front.
Jojo?
Let the world feel the weight of who you are, and you let them deal with it. Being vulnerable with those around you is just as important for your clients as it is for you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Please check out Ryan and Jojo, and myself occasionally, but Ryan and Jojo and other mental health professionals on the Mental Health TV network. You can find us at www.mhtn.org, streaming in more than 70 countries. Valerie, again, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you so much, you guys. It's been an honor, and thank you so much for all that you do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Take care now.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.